Hello, and in this video I'm going to be doing some realistic road layouts for American style cities. So as you can see here, this is a American style grid layout for a basic city start. There's a big avenue running up the middle with two grids on either side going at different angles to one another. Because if you just do one big grid, or even several little grids all on the same angle, it doesn't look realistic. Real cities are not built like that. If you really want to look at cities, just look on Google Maps on any cities. New York, Boston, Washington, San Francisco, Los Angeles. Most of them, if not all of them, are gridded to some extent. Because that's just how American cities are built. They are built with the car in mind. You must always think about the car, and if the car has access to an area. Now this grid is slightly more broken up than other grids. There are roads going off at certain angles. I'm imagining those are older roads that were put there and have just been used till modern day and are still in use, but they've just built around them. Maybe there's an old building there, like a town hall or a big old industrial building. You've got to think of all these little things as you're building, and as we come to the more industrial section that I've built here, you can see it's a lot more off-angle grid. There's a lot of turning off, there's a lot of right angles, there's a lot of 45 degrees, and this is because a lot of old industry obviously used train, and train tracks had to get into the area. So what's best to do is maybe draw the train tracks into the industrial area, like I've drawn here. You can see them as the lighter colour. The train tracks are running in, and they create sort of roads that are at different angles, and you must accommodate for those roads. You've got to, every time you're thinking of building, you've got to think about the past and how it could have been changed up until the future. That does sound a little bit complicated, but basically just build it fairly fast. I find that if you build quickly and then change it in the future, you can get a fairly natural looking expansion with a grid. So the avenue that runs down the middle. Now this is fairly difficult. I don't really like the way that I did the avenue here. It looks a bit off, a bit strange, mainly because I tried to make one side completely different from the other. This isn't all. Sometimes they do look different in real life, but most of the time they connect quite evenly, and like as they change from one angle grid to another. But as you can see here, I sort of made a slip road that could be used to enter and exit the highway, but if I were to continue this city, I would change that up and not have that weird angled. Maybe you could sort of incorporate it into a newer style city by removing parts of it but leaving other parts still there. Because a big key thing to making cities look realistic is development, and you must either leave dead ends or leave roads that are going to be expanded on in the future, or maybe roads that have been demolished and there's just a big gap in between two big avenues per se, and there's just a big gap with nothing there. This can all happen in real life, and like I said, Google Maps is your friend. Just look on Google Maps and try and put it all into perspective within your city. So the highway is another big problem with city skylines and making realistic cities. It's very hard to fit it all together. I'm imagining that the highway that I have built here is a more older style highway. It runs parallel to the grid, and the roads tend to meet it instead of the highway being demolishing the roads. If you're planning to expand your highway, a good thing to do for the realism perspective is to basically smash through a grid at a different angle to which the grid is running, and then reconnect the roads so that the grid suddenly ends where the highway sort of cuts through it. And this can be fairly realistic because in America, in the 50s to 70s, 80s, even 90s, there was no real conservation effort for neighborhoods and stuff like that, so they just used to cut through them and sort of create a big strip of empty land in between, so that then these neighborhoods have been separated. I don't have an example on the screen right now, but the highway itself sort of creates a barrier. There aren't as many connections between either side of the grid, but in this case one side on the bottom is industrial and the one above is residential and commercial. So there has to be a separation there. In American law, residential, commercial and industrial must all be separated from each other. It's what gives American cities a sort of distinctive look, because everything must be separate and zoned in its correct areas. So the grid can fall apart when you reach the coastline, and what you've got to do is either follow the coastline to as closely as you can, or sort of imagine if it's on an industrial area, you could reclaim the land and shape it to whatever shape you want. But if it is natural and it is the older part of town, it would follow the coastline and curve with it and just follow it all the way down. But then as you move up inland, the grid would form again, and even the grid could be right up to the coastline. It's just that that coastline would not be straight, it would be curved and follow it along. You can see that right in the bottom of your screen there. It's curved around, but the lines above are following the grid above it. So if you're new to Skylines and new to my videos, I use a lot of mods, and mods are very useful. They help a lot in building even this simple road layout. And I have linked all the mods I use in the description for you to use. They are very useful. The game has very bad limitations that the mods overcome and allow you to even create something like this. Even with vanilla, it will be fairly hard to create some of these angles that I have created in game. If you have any questions about building realistic cities, or what you would like to see in future videos, please leave a comment down below. Let me know, and let me know if you like this sort of informational video of where I'm trying to build a realistic road layout from the ground up so that you can build one also. But I have uploaded this map to the workshop. The link is in the description. You can download it if you want. It's a good starter map, but I'll put it out there. I only spent maybe 30 minutes building this. It wasn't that long, and if I was to continue building this, I would tweak it up until the day I was finished. They would never be the same. I would tweak every road again. You just got to keep tweaking roads and make sure nothing is permanent. It's the best way to keep the city looking fresh and alive. So I hope you like this video. I'll see you next time.